right, everybody, it's Friday night. Welcome to Casa de Dennis. We're going to go over a few documents here from that DBQ that I had you do. I know I had a couple questions over email, and I figured this would be the best way to kind of answer some of those questions, is to make a nice video about what the meaning is of the documents. And let's face it, what better way to spend a Friday night than talking about DBQ documents? Oh my gosh, I sound pathetic saying that. That's okay, I suppose. All right, first things first, let's talk about this question. It says, evaluate the extent of change in ideas about American independence from 1763 to 1783. Basically, what they're asking is, how did the mindset of colonists change over that 20-year period? I think I equated it in the fall when I taught this to like a breakup. Let's just say I have a girlfriend, Regina, who was supposed to call me on a Tuesday night, and for some reason or another, she does not call, and I'm upset. The next day, she comes over and says, I fell asleep because I had a tough time at work, and, I forgive her because I guess I like her, and it's only one minor incident. That's kind of what the first document's talking about, this idea of the teapots. Between 1766 and 1770, talking about the Stamp Act. It says no Stamp Act, and then on the other side says American Liberty Restored. Basically, like the Stamp Act was, if you remember, incensed the colonists because it was something that the British government did without their, without their consent, without their input, and then once it was kind of removed, the other side indicates American Liberty Restored. So this is kind of talking about how colonists felt like, wow, we kind of made these complaints. The British government hurt us. They took away the Stamp Act. That was what we didn't like that they were doing. That's great. So kind of the deeper meaning is, again, the Stamp Act caused a little rift, but once it was repealed, American Liberty Restored. They felt like they were empowered to kind of govern them, to kind of have a say. They also were still proud to be British citizens. Some other things that you might want to talk about, and there's, if you look at the scoring guidelines, they do kind of bring up some of these points, and then they do also talk a little bit about maybe the other part I talked about, some of the deeper meaning portions. Like you can talk about the growing trade between America and Great Britain. So the fact that it's a teapot that was purchased from British manufacturers would probably be pretty significant. The colonists were pretty reliant on British manufacturers, and the colonists were a big part of their business, so they were kind of intertwined. So you kind of talk about some context there for what's going on with that. Okay, so that's that first act. The second act is, again, talking about the Virginia House of Burgesses in 1769 was talking about that it's okay to criticize your government. It kind of says right here that dutiful address, praying the royal interposition in favor of the violated rights of America, basically saying that you can tell the king that, hey, you've wronged us in this sort of way. And then they kind of go on to say that it's not going to be Seach's royal interposition. They are not going. So, basically, they're still loyal British citizens. They're just voicing a little bit of displeasure. Again, if we're talking about the breakup scenario, I can say, Regina, your breath smells like hot garbage. Maybe you should brush your teeth. I don't know. I could say that. Great. So now I've created a girlfriend that's fake and also that has horrible breath. Some of the concepts that are along. How pathetic is it that I had a prop ready to go? Oh my gosh. I've reached rock bottom. This kind of talks a little bit about the self-government in the United States, how important that was. So that's kind of some context that during this period in time history, they still had a government that's up and running. So there you go. They can talk about that a little bit. The third document is Samuel Adams. Remember, Samuel Adams was, the point of view is he was one of the Sons of Liberty, if you remember that. So his was a very short statement, basically saying, like, if you have been wronged multiple times, you absolutely can move on, from this society. You don't have to live in this place. You can go somewhere else. You can leave the society, or in this case, you can have the British leave your home So this is starting to see like a push and a growing sense of independence, a growing movement towards independence by certain people. Document number 4 is Quaker leaders. And Quakers are very much pacifists. If you remember from earlier in the year, talking about they really didn't like war. They were very peaceful people. And if you read this passage, that's exactly what they talk about is, they don't want to challenge authority. They want to make sure that we return to peace and welfare of our country. So they really don't want to have any kind of rift. Kind of the significance of this is kind of showing there is a divide in the country. Not everybody is moving towards independence. There are definitely people out there that do not love the idea of any kind of conflict. They just want things to go back to the way they were. Along those same lines is document number 5. Document number 5 is a foreigner basically coming to visit her brother in North Carolina, and what she sees, kind of talking about how patriots are burning down houses, like taking slaves, tarring and feathering you if you don't kind of adhere to the, if you're not like with the cause of independence. This shows a couple of things. This shows obviously the growing aggression of patriots. There's this big, more and more of a movement to gain independence, and they're becoming much more aggressive in that fight. So this is kind of showing that. The other piece of significance was it's kind of showing, again, there's also a divide. Where we talked about the Quakers just not wanting to really be part of it. There's another side of people in the quest for independence, not just the patriots. There are people that they wanted to be British citizens. They thought their fortunes were better served to remain British citizens. So, document 6 is talking really about the expense, the fact that the colonial economy just cannot cover the cost of a war. He kind of estimates what it's going to cost to wage a war against Great Britain, and just the dollars and cents of it doesn't allow you to do that. It doesn't allow you to move on. So if we go back to the relationship scenario, if I just don't like this Regina girl anymore, but if she's paying my rent, I don't have the money to move out, and I feel like I'm stuck. I guess it's kind of what they're saying. So no matter how much you want to become independent, the money's holding them back, is kind of what he's saying. Document 7, the very, very last document by Thomas Paine. And if you remember the relevance of Thomas Paine, kind of from his perspective, he was very much advocated for independence really early on. So this is, if you notice the date, 1776, after the Declaration of Independence is written. Thomas Paine talks about, we are going to do whatever we can to fight. We're going to scratch, claw, kick, bite, whatever we have to do to win this war, we are going to do to win the war. So he kind of goes and this impassioned, like, we're going to win at all costs. This is pretty significant, just obviously because who he is from that perspective, but the context is, remember that the colonists were massive underdogs. So thoughts like this is kind of rallying the support. They need that constant kind of attaboy, like, to make sure, like, the colonial soldiers got pretty discouraged because of their low supplies and low pay, and just, again, fighting maybe the greatest military in the world and the British forces. That's a pretty daunting task, and in pretty bad conditions with bad supplies, sometimes not a plentiful amount of food. They needed all the encouragement they can get. So this is that, like, let's keep going, let's fight, kind of that pep talk at halftime to make sure people come out and ready to go. So those 7 kind of, hopefully that kind of helps you kind of understand what those 7 things are saying, some of the significance of those 7, like I said. And if you don't get it, if you're not sure what's kind of going on, you can kind of reference that scoring guidelines on the AP website under the 2017 questions, and that will clue you in a little bit more. So hopefully this helps out a little bit. Just want to kind of thank everybody for listening on a Friday night. And again, this was brought to you by Colgate toothpaste. Don't let your mouth smell like hot garbage, like my fake girlfriend Regina. And I don't know if that was a funny joke, but let's try it. So, all right. Hopefully this helps. If you have questions, please email me. If not, I will talk to you guys soon. See ya.